So we've gone ahead and created a script to turn any object into a voxel version of itself. And in this part, we're going to make this into an actual add-on that you can easily share with other people and access from Blender's menus. So there are a few things that we need to do. We need to actually tell Blender that this is an add-on. We need to register that add-on with Blender. And there's a bit that goes into it, but it's not too complicated. And thankfully, we can use templates to see what we need to do. So in the text editor, you can go to Templates, Python, and let's just use the add-on add object. And you can see that there are a few different things. So first, we need the information. So this is the info of the add-on. We need to import anything that we need. So we've already imported BPY, but maybe we need some of these other things. We need to define any functions, which we don't have outside of our main operator, which is this. So you can see in this add-on, they've created a class, and this is what is called an operator. And any of these things that you see inside of Blender's menu that have commands are considered operators. And operators have different settings. So one add-on can have many operators, but each operator needs to have its own ID name, its label, and its different options. And then we need to tell Blender which operators we want to register inside the menus. We need to add it to the menus. And then we need to actually tell Blender when to run that operator, and we need to know when to add it to the menu. So there's a few things that we need to do, but thankfully not too difficult, and they're pretty much the same through all add-ons. So once you do it a couple times, then it just becomes second nature. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste this BL info here. I'll copy that and put that in our script as well, right here at the top, above import BPY. BL info, and we can set the name, so the plain English version of this. I'll set it to voxelize. Author. I'll call it my name. Version 1,0, that's fine. Blender 2,80, that works. And then it's not going to be in the add mesh menu. Instead, it's going to be in the object menu. The description is converts any object into a voxel mesh. We don't have a warning, we don't have a wiki to link them to, but we do have a category, and that category is object, because it's in the object menu and it works on the object level. So this is all the stuff that's going to appear in the user preferences when you go to install the add-on. Next, we need to take all of these commands that we did one by one and convert them into a class that is an operator. So underneath import BPY, I'm going to say class, and we need to name this operator. And the naming convention here is, since it's an object operator, all caps, object underscore OT underscore, and then in lowercase is going to be the actual name or the ID of the operator. So voxelize, and then we need to call that operator inside the parentheses. So it's passing through the operator, but we need to tell this script what an operator actually is. And those operators are defined in bpy.types. And there are a few other things that we need to import from there as well. We need panels and property groups and a couple of things that we're going to use. So I'm going to type underneath import bpy from bpy.types import, and then parentheses, and I'll hit enter here so we can import a few things all at once. First, I'll type add-on preferences so that we get access to changing the preferences of our add-on. Operator, so that the script knows what an operator is. We need a panel to display all of our things, and we also need a property group. And we'll go over properties in a little bit. So now we have this class, and we need a colon after this as well to say this is the class. And we need to take all of this and indent it. So let's scroll all the way to the bottom, hit tab to indent, and there we go. But inside the operator, we have a couple different functions, and you'll see that in the add object here. So we have the main thing, we have the execute, and we also have a property here that can be changed after the fact. We have all of the BLID things, and we're going to be using a couple different functions as well. But all the things that happen after you press the button can be found in the execute function. So we need to make a execute function for this as well. So let's say def execute, and we're going to be using the parentheses self and context. So we're passing the self and the context into this execute function. Self being the things about this. So when we set up the ID and things like that up here at the top, we're going to be using that inside of here, as well as the context that this operator is being executed in. So now we need to take all of this and indent it one more time to be inside of the execute function. And let's turn off word wrap up there at the top just to keep things clean. And here at the very bottom, the last thing that we need to do to make sure that this is a part of the execute function and that it works properly is tab in twice, and we need to return something. So we need to tell Blender when this is actually finished and that it's finished correctly without errors. So type return and then curly braces with single quote marks, and inside of those, type in all caps finished. And this tells Blender, okay, we did the thing. So now let's tell Blender what this operator actually is with the BL ID, the label, where it should go in the 3D view, things like that. So first of all, we have the BL underscore label, set that equal to quotation marks, and I'm going to call this voxelize. And this is going to be what's displayed as the menu item. So you can go ahead and capitalize it, call it whatever you want. You can use a space if you want, whatever's human readable. But then we have the ID name, which is the technical name for it. And we can set that equal to, again, use quote marks, object.voxelize, because it's an object operator. And then we need a description, so BL underscore description. And I'm just going to copy and paste what we had in the add-on description, since it's really the only thing that we're putting in the add-on. And then we need a space type to tell Blender which space to put this in this case, the 3D view, space underscore type equals, and remember we call that the view 3D in all caps, view underscore 3D. And then we need to tell Blender which part of the 3D view to put this in, and we're going to put it in the UI, which is the menus. So BL underscore region underscore type equals, in quotes, UI. And then underneath that, we can type in the options for this operator with BL underscore options equals, and these are going to be a list, so curly braces. And the first thing that we need to do, of course, is to register this with Blender, so we need to include that as an option. So all caps in single quotes, register, and then comma to add another option, and this one is going to be undo. In single quotes, all caps, undo. And this is going to allow us to use that redo panel here at the bottom left of the 3D viewport. So that way we can change the resolution of this mesh after the fact. So here we've defined what exactly this operator is. In the execute function, we've defined what it does. And then at the very bottom, we need to actually register this with Blender and put it inside of the menus. So outside of this function, outside of the class itself, so all the way on the very left, we need to define a function to place this in the menu. So def, I'll call this menu func underscore func for function, and inside of the properties here, I'll say self, comma, context. So we're passing in the self, we're passing in the context, and of course a colon, and the self refers to the add-on as a whole. So self.layout.operator, and we need to say what should be put inside the menu. And remember, we called this object OT voxelize. That's the name of the class. And so we're going to pass that as the argument there. And then we need the actual ID name of that. So we'll say object otvoxelize dot bl underscore ID name. And then we're going to use this function when we actually register this with Blender to put it in the menu. So to register it, we say def register. We don't need anything inside the parentheses, but we do need the colon. And then to register something, we just do bpy.utils, so all of the utility functions, and then register underscore class, and then we need the name of the operator, object otvoxelize, and then we need to append this to the object menu. So to do that, we got bpy.types, and then view 3D underscore MT, so we're saying in the 3D view, in the menus, which menu? The object menu, dot append, and then we pass in the menu function. So type in menu underscore func, and there we go. So once we register this add-on, then it'll run through the menu function and add this operator to the object menu. Then we also need an unregister function for when we remove the add-on. So def unregister, and then they're going to be exactly the same as the register functions with a few minor changes. Of course, instead of register, we just need to type unregister, and then instead of dot append, we need dot remove. Now, lastly, we needed to tell Blender when to actually register these things. And the way that we do that here, and frankly, I couldn't tell you all of the reasons why it's like this, but if we type if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals equals, so two equal signs because we're checking to see whether it's equal, not assigning something, and then quotes underscore underscore main underscore underscore and colon. So if name equals main as a string, then we need to register. Okay, so with all of this, let's go ahead and save this text. And this should be enough to try running it. There's a few other things that I'd like to add, but let's go ahead and click Run Script. I probably forgot something else stupid again. Yep, of course I forgot the colon on the def execute function. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so barring all dumb mistakes by me, we now have object voxelize. Let's go ahead and try this out. Let's delete our object there, go back to the original object, and voxelize. Hey, it worked. So perfect. But one thing that you'll notice is that it didn't pop up that menu that lets us change this after the fact. And that's because we need to assign a property to this execute function that can be then changed from the outside. And I also want to make sure that we can't press this voxelize operator when we have something like a camera or a light selected, because then it would just throw an error because it can't be converted into a mesh. So let's do both of those things at once. First, we need to make a property, and we can do that underneath all of these BL labels and stuff above the execute function. And we need to call the property something, and I will call it voxelize resolution, and then a colon, and we need to assign it a type of property. And this is going to be an integer property or a whole number. So bpy.props.int property with parentheses, and then we have all of the options that can go inside of these parentheses. For the integer property type, we have the name, which is voxel resolution, so whatever the human readable label should be. Then we have the default. I'm going to set that to 6. Make sure you have commas after each of these things, because it's technically all on one line in between these parentheses. Then we have the minimum. I'll set that to 1. Max, I will set to 15. I don't think anybody should be going higher than that, otherwise it will just slow down to a crawl. And then we also have the description. And this is a string, so it needs to be in quotes. And I'm going to call the description the octree depth used for the remesh modifier. So this can be a little bit longer because it's only displayed in the tooltip. And put a comma after that. And there we go. So now we need to actually use this property instead of the hard-coded 5. But we haven't actually told Blender yet what an int property is. So we need to import that as well up here under BPY. So I'm going to say from bpy.props, because it's a property type, import, and another parentheses. And here I'm going to say int property. So now in the execute function itself, we just need to call voxelize resolution instead of just 5. But the way that we do that is, since that's not a variable that's defined in the execute function itself, we need to say self.voxelize resolution, because we're passing the self of all of the things that are inside of the object OT operator into this function. So instead of the hard-coded, where'd it go? Here, hard-coded number, we need to say self dot voxelize resolution. So if we go ahead and we delete this object here, unhide the original, and let's save our text before we go any farther, and run our script again, that's going to create a duplicate down here. But once we click that, we can see we get an error. And that's because, see, none type object has no attribute name in line 41. We go to line 41, and it says bpy.context.object.name. And it's giving us an error because we don't have anything selected. So this should be grayed out if nothing is selected. And we can do that based on a poll. So if we take a poll from Blender and say, hey, what is selected? And only allow this operator to function if these things are true. So underneath the voxelize resolution property and above the execute function, we need to define another function called poll. And inside of this, we need CLS and context. And a colon. And then we need to return true or false. So if this returns true, it will allow the execute function. If it returns false, then it will be grayed out and we can't use it. So I'm going to use an and an or statement. So a couple things need to be true in order for this to work. It needs to have something selected, and the thing that's selected needs to be either a mesh or a curve. So I will say context dot object dot select underscore get to get whatever is selected. And if there's anything in that selection list, then this will return true. But that needs to be true and, so both of these things, context.object.type equals, checking whether it's equals to, single quotes, all caps, mesh, or, I'll just copy and paste this again, but instead of mesh, we're going to say curve, all caps. So it could be a curve or a mesh. And if you'd like, you can also add in, surface, metaball, text, whatever you want. Then let's go ahead and save this, run the script. So the thing that I forgot here is to call @class method right before the poll function, and that way it can be reused inside of this class. So I just forgot that, and once you type that right above the poll function, and you run the script, then you can go to object, and you can see that it's listed there. If something is selected, let's go ahead and run the script again. There we go. Nothing is selected, and it's grayed out. When something is selected, it is not grayed out. And let's try adding something that's not a curve. So let's add an armature object. Yep, we can't see it. If we add a light, that won't work. But as soon as it's a mesh or a curve, then we'll be able to do it. All right, perfect. I'll go ahead and delete that light. Another thing that I want to do is pop open the menu before we actually run the script. So in order to change the voxelize resolution property, I'd like that to happen beforehand so that we can change it without having to run the thing twice. So underneath the poll, between the poll and execute, we're going to say invoke, so def invoke. So whenever we invoke the operator before it executes, we need a few arguments here. So self, context, and event, colon. Then we need to return context.windowManager underscore manager dot invoke underscore props underscore dialog self in parentheses. Okay, so we are returning the context inside the window manager. Then we're pulling up the props dialog, which is that panel that says the voxel resolution on itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that and run it. Take this, object, voxelize. Here we go. We've popped up that panel. We can change this before the fact. Let's set it to 5. Click OK. Now we have this redo panel here, and we can set it to whatever we'd like here at the bottom. So there we go. Now we just need to save this as a .py, and then you can import it into your file and share it with anybody else. So if we go to text, save as, we already have it as voxelize.py, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and open up a completely new instance of Blender. You can see it's completely different because it has my default theme instead of Blender's default theme. Let's go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. So it has the Voxelify add-on, but not the Voxelize add-on. So let's go to Install. Of course, those add-ons are pretty much exactly the same. Let's choose Voxelize, install add-on from file. Here we go. You can see it has the version number, it has my name, it has where it's located, all of that good stuff. Turn that on. And let's give this, let's say, an icosphere here, object, and voxelize. There we go. So now we've made our very first script with Blender 2.8. Hope you learned something cool from that, at least a few new tricks, as well as how to register things with Blender 2.8 rather than 2.79. But either way, this isn't really a full tutorial because I'm still kind of getting my feet wet in Python and I'm not ready to dive 100% into it yet. However, I think that that's a good intro, and as a bonus video, I hope you found it useful. So thanks for watching, enjoy the add-on, and I'll see you later.